My life turned upside down unexpectedly when, at 7 months pregnant, my husband Nathan and his mother made the decision to evict me from our home. Their reasoning was harsh and direct. I had been unable to contribute financially or manage household chores for several months due to the physical strain of pregnancy. Rather than engage in a futile argument, I chose to respond with composure. I calmly handed Nathan divorce papers and immediately took steps to secure full custody of our unborn child. To truly grasp the roots of my journey, understanding my upbringing is crucial. I am a 30-year-old woman who learned the value of resilience and hard work from a young age. Raised in a financially modest family by my mother, who worked tirelessly as a cashier, I was brought up with my twin sister. Our father had abandoned us when my mother was pregnant, leaving her to face the challenges of raising twins alone. Despite the hardships, my mother never wavered. Her unwavering determination and strength in the face of adversity instilled in me a profound sense of duty towards family and a fierce drive for financial independence. Unlike many of my peers who pursued higher education, I opted to enter the workforce at 18. Starting in sales, I quickly found my niche and excelled. Over the years, I steadily climbed the ladder to a managerial role in a different company, forging a stable life for myself, my sister, and our mother. Driven by our shared ambition to overcome our humble beginnings, my twin pursued her passion for literature with our unwavering support. Together, we pooled our resources to ensure she received the education and opportunities she deserved. Today, she flourishes as a dedicated high school teacher and passionate blogger. My life took a turn for the better when Nathan entered my life about 5 years ago. We met at a concert through a mutual acquaintance. Nathan, 2 years my senior, immediately struck a chord with me. From our first conversation, it was evident we shared a deep bond over our mutual interest in fitness, literature, and TV shows. Both of us had experienced the absence of fathers. His had passed away during his childhood, while mine had never been part of the picture. Our shared backgrounds fostered a unique understanding and comfort between us. Our relationship blossomed, and after 6 months, I introduced Nathan to my family. My mother and sister welcomed him warmly, appreciating his kindness and genuine nature. However, the harmony in my personal life starkly contrasted with Nathan's relationship with his mother. Despite my sincere efforts to connect and build a relationship with her, she remained aloof and cold towards me. Her apparent disapproval puzzled me deeply, as I couldn't discern any concrete reason for her stance. Nathan reassured me that his mother needed time to warm up to new people, believing that she would eventually come around. Trusting in his optimism and hoping for the best, I continued to make efforts to bridge the gap, despite the recurring disappointments. While Nathan effortlessly integrated into my family, forming strong bonds with my sister's husband and children, I found myself increasingly uncomfortable in the presence of his mother. The palpable tension and her consistent lack of warmth towards me became more pronounced over time. Despite my persistent efforts to fit in and earn her acceptance, it became apparent that her approval might never materialize. The rejection stung, but I focused on the unwavering love and support I received from Nathan, my family, and close friends. As time passed, the strain in my marriage to Nathan became more pronounced. Financial pressures compounded by differing expectations and the imminent arrival of our child strained our relationship to its breaking point. The climax occurred when, at 7 months pregnant, I found myself unexpectedly facing eviction from our home. Unable to contribute financially and grappling physically with the demands of pregnancy, I was abruptly cast aside during a time of dire vulnerability. In that moment, I made the heart-wrenching decision to end the marriage and take decisive steps to secure full custody of our unborn child. Navigating the intricate complexities of divorce while preparing for motherhood has proven daunting. Yet, I draw strength from my mother's enduring example of resilience and fortitude. Despite the setbacks and challenges, I remain resolute in my commitment to provide a stable and nurturing environment for my child. The road ahead may be uncertain, but I am steadfast in my determination to build a future where my child and I can flourish independently. Life has imparted invaluable lessons, teaching me that challenges serve as catalysts for growth and resilience. While my aspirations for financial stability and family unity have been severely tested, I hold steadfast to the belief that every obstacle presents an opportunity to redefine my path and strengthen my resolve. As I embark on this new chapter of my life, I am profoundly grateful for the unwavering support of my family and friends, who have stood by me unwaveringly through it all. Together, we will navigate the uncertainties and forge ahead towards a brighter and more promising future. That's how it was back then, but a lot has changed recently, and I'm not sure how to feel about it anymore. I'm just confused. About 7.5 months ago, I found out I was pregnant, and I was already a couple of weeks along when I realized it. I was overjoyed because I thought it was the perfect time to have a child. We had been married for almost a year at that time, and I felt ready to start a family. However, Nathan didn't share my enthusiasm. When I broke the news to him, he expressed concerns about the timing, saying it wasn't ideal to have a baby because he was in the middle of setting up his new business. He anticipated being very busy over the next few months and worried about the financial implications of having a baby at this stage in our lives. Nathan had quit his job about a year ago to join one of his friends in starting a new business. He had already invested a significant amount of money, and it seemed likely that they would need to invest even more before seeing any returns. Consequently, he wasn't in the best financial shape. Despite his concerns, I reassured him that I was willing to step up and contribute more to the household until his business could generate income. Yet he remained skeptical and didn't seem fully on board with the idea of bringing a baby into the world. He even tried to convince me to terminate the pregnancy at one point. However, I was adamant about keeping the baby. I firmly told him that we could either proceed with the pregnancy, or I would leave the marriage because I had made up my mind. Faced with my resolve, he eventually apologized for suggesting an abortion, explaining that his nervousness had driven him to act that way. I forgave him, and we decided to try and get through this together. At the time, it seemed like a good plan because I had no idea what challenges lay ahead. Aware that Nathan wouldn't be able to contribute much financially, I decided to work for as long as possible. My company had a policy of not allowing women in their third trimester to work, especially those with high workloads like mine. However, my boss made an exception for me, understanding our financial situation. He allowed me to work until the 7th month of my pregnancy, after which I had to go on mandatory maternity leave. I appreciated his flexibility and fairness, and I informed Nathan, who seemed content with this arrangement. Around this time, Nathan suggested we move into his mother's house to save on rent. I was completely against the idea, given my strained relationship with his mother. I couldn't believe he was even suggesting it because he knew how difficult it would be for me to live with her. I vehemently disagreed, insisting that I would rather pay high rent and work hard to maintain our independence than move in with my mother-in-law. Nathan got angry, accusing me of not giving his mother a chance, and refusing her generous offer to help us save money. He argued that moving in with her would allow us to save for future expenses, including medical costs during and after the pregnancy. I felt his accusations were unfair. From my perspective, I had given his mother multiple chances to get to know me, but she never reciprocated. Nathan had acknowledged her hostility towards me when we were dating, but he seemed to forget all of that during our argument. I suggested we could live with my mother instead, but Nathan dismissed the idea, saying her house was too far from his workplace and would be inconvenient for his daily commute. We discussed this issue for almost a week before I reluctantly agreed to move in with his mother. I was exhausted from the constant arguing, and Nathan insisted that since he had agreed to have a child with me, I needed to compromise on this matter. He argued that it was unfair to expect him always to accommodate my wishes. Feeling worn down and desperate for some peace, I eventually said yes, though I harbored deep reservations. In hindsight, I should have realized that this arrangement was doomed from the start. Moving in with his mother turned out to be a nightmare. I was incredibly unhappy, and the situation only worsened over time. Nathan's mother was not an easy person to live with, and she treated me like an insubordinate child. She imposed a series of strict rules on me, supposedly for the sake of my health and the baby's, but it felt more like an exercise in control. She insisted I go to bed at 9 p.m. and would nag me relentlessly if I didn't comply. This was difficult for me because I was used to living on my own terms and having control over my own life. She also banned all snacks from the house, claiming they were unhealthy processed foods that I shouldn't consume. It felt less about her concern for my health, and more about her desire to control every aspect of my life. This constant interference was incredibly frustrating, and I frequently tried to express my displeasure to Nathan. However, he dismissed my complaints, accusing me of being biased against his mother. He argued that I wouldn't have an issue if it were my own mother setting these rules, which only intensified my frustration. Our arguments became more frequent and heated. The tension between Nathan and me had been building for a long time, and living with his mother only exacerbated the situation. Despite the ongoing conflicts, I didn't leave because I didn't want to deprive my future child of having both parents. Growing up without a father had been a difficult experience for me, and I was determined to provide my child with a stable family environment, no matter the personal cost. Looking back, I wish I had left much earlier instead of waiting for Nathan or his mother to change. Living with his mother was unbearable. Even at 6 months pregnant, I was expected to do chores around the house because she believed that exercise was good for the baby. She didn't think I deserved any rest after work, insisting that I do my own dishes, laundry, and clean the kitchen. Whenever I tried to argue, she would lecture me about how she had done everything during her pregnancies without any help, implying that I should do the same. These constant comparisons and her disregard for my well-being took a toll on me. To avoid her incessant sermons, I complied with her demands, no matter how unreasonable they seemed. I put up with a lot during the last few months of my pregnancy, trying to maintain some semblance of peace. However, in hindsight, I realized that my efforts were futile. I wish I had left long ago instead of enduring this misery, hoping for Nathan or his mother to change. One day, in the heat of the moment, everything came to a head. Nathan and I had a massive argument, and I finally reached my breaking point. I realized that I couldn't continue living like this, sacrificing my happiness and well-being for the sake of a relationship that was clearly not working. It became clear that staying in this toxic environment was not the best choice for me or my unborn child. I decided to leave, understanding that I needed to prioritize my own health and happiness to be a good mother to my child. Reflecting on everything that happened, I learned a lot about myself and what I'm willing to endure for the sake of my family. I realized that compromising my own needs and well-being isn't sustainable in the long run. While I wanted to provide my child with a stable family, I also needed to ensure that I was in a healthy and supportive environment. It wasn't an easy decision, but ultimately, I knew it was the right one for both me and my child. Nathan's initial reaction to my decision to leave was one of shock and disbelief. He couldn't comprehend why I would want to leave, even though the reasons were glaringly obvious to me. We had numerous heated discussions where he tried to convince me to stay, promising that things would get better, and that his mother would ease up on her control. But I had heard these promises before and seen no real change. I explained to him that my mental and physical health, as well as the well-being of our child, were at stake. Staying in such a toxic environment was not an option anymore. I began to make plans to move out. I reached out to my family and friends who were incredibly supportive and understanding. They helped me find a place to stay and assisted with the move. During this time, Nathan's attitude fluctuated between anger and desperation. He would be furious one moment, accusing me of breaking up our family and pleading with me the next, asking for another chance. It was emotionally draining, but I knew I had to stay strong for the sake of my baby. Moving out was a bittersweet experience. On one hand, I felt a profound sense of relief to be leaving an environment that had caused me so much stress and unhappiness. On the other hand, I felt sadness and guilt for the breakdown of my marriage. Despite everything, I had loved Nathan deeply and had hoped for a different outcome. However, I knew that I was making the best decision for myself and my child. After moving into my new place, I focused on creating a peaceful and supportive environment for the remainder of my pregnancy. I continued working as long as I could, and my boss was very understanding of my situation, allowing me to work from home when necessary. This flexibility was a blessing, as it allowed me to rest and take care of myself while still contributing financially. As the months went by, I prepared for the arrival of my baby. I attended prenatal classes, set up the nursery, and tried to stay as healthy and relaxed as possible. Nathan and I maintained some contact, primarily to discuss the logistics of co-parenting. He gradually began to accept the reality of our situation, although it was clear that he still struggled with the changes. My relationship with Nathan's mother remained strained. She occasionally reached out, but her messages were often passive-aggressive, blaming me for the breakdown of the marriage. I chose to limit contact with her. I decided to have a lawyer draw up papers to ensure that my husband, Nathan, relinquished his rights over our child. Looking back, I must have been incredibly upset that day. Something particularly irritating had happened, and as usual, Nathan did not stand up for me. In a fit of frustration, I stormed out of the house and took what I thought was a precautionary measure. With the way things were going, I had no idea how much longer I could sustain our marriage. Nathan seemed intent on making my life miserable, and I was at my wit's end. I was so angry that I decided to have those papers prepared. I didn't think he was capable of being a good husband at that time, so I doubted his ability to be a good father as well. Those papers stayed in my purse for months. I carried them around, hoping that Nathan would change and that I would never have to use them. Unfortunately, about a week ago, the situation reached a breaking point. Nathan's mother told me I was no longer welcome to live with them because I wasn't contributing enough to the household. I had just entered the 7th month of my pregnancy and had finally gone on maternity leave. I had also stopped doing chores at the beginning of the month because I was constantly exhausted. Additionally, I had not been contributing financially for the past few months, as we had agreed that I wouldn't need to spend as much money while living with his mother. Despite this arrangement, Nathan and his mother seemed to find it reasonable to ask me to either do the housework or contribute financially. Nathan told me that his mother was too old to do all the work around the house, and if she could manage, pregnancy was no excuse for me. His mother echoed his sentiments, saying I wasn't required to spend as much money because she had opened her home to us, so I should at least do the housework. Their demands shocked me, and the situation escalated when my mother-in-law gave me an ultimatum: do the chores, pay my share, or leave. Nathan's agreement with his mother was the final straw. I realized I was better off without him, and my child would not be worse off for not having such a father. No father was definitely better than a father like Nathan. I tried to remain calm and simply told him it was his loss. Then, I handed him the papers I had been carrying in my purse for ages and walked out. I didn't bother to pack my things I just left. I got into a cab and headed straight to my mother's house, where I broke down. Nathan bombarded me with texts and calls, but I ignored them all. I told my mother everything that had happened and how they had been treating me. She was outraged and insisted I contact my lawyer to file for a divorce in full custody. She also reminded me to seek child support. It's been a week since I left. A couple of days ago, Nathan called and apologized, saying he was sorry for everything. He said he was ready to step up and had even left his mother's house. He claimed he didn't mean what he said and that he only said those things because his mother wanted to scare me into doing the chores, thinking an active lifestyle would benefit me. He realized it was a stupid mistake and not worth risking his relationship with me. Despite his apologies, I told him I couldn't be with him anymore, especially after the way he and his mother had treated me. He admitted he thought he was doing us a favor by saving money and living with his mom, but now realized his error and wanted a chance to fix it. However, I am unsure if I can give him that chance because of everything I've been through. I don't want my son to grow up without a father, but I also don't want to endure more mistreatment. Update 1. Hello everyone. I'm deeply grateful for the support you've shown me. Reading your comments has been uplifting. I've decided to go through with the divorce and file for full custody of my baby, as it seems the best option for us. It's been 2 weeks since I walked out, and although I feel guilty about what I'm about to do, I must prioritize my future and my baby's future. My mother and sister are very supportive, and even strangers on Reddit agree that this is the right course of action. Update 2. I finally informed Nathan about the divorce and my plan to pursue full custody, at least until our child is older. He reacted with anger, leading to a heated argument over the phone. He hurled insults at me, accused me of sabotaging his relationship with his mother, and expressed disbelief that I would deny him fatherhood. My frustration grew because my intention was never to deprive him. I stayed in this relationship hoping he would be a part of our lives, but his consistent shortcomings proved otherwise. I reiterated that my decision was final, and that arguing would only reinforce it. His immature response only solidified my resolve to proceed with the divorce and seek full custody. He also accused me of trying to ruin his relationship with his mother, and admitted regretting our marriage. I realized I couldn't trust him, and his mother was another story altogether. She was a horrible person who had put me through the worst, so I didn't owe her any kindness. If telling the truth counted as turning him against her, then she should have been a better person. I told Nathan my decision was final, and that no amount of arguing would change my mind. His behavior only made me more certain I was making the right choice by filing for a divorce and full custody. He acted like a spoiled child, and that was how he had been ever since I got pregnant. It was almost as if he was trying to ruin his relationship with me. Update 3. It's been another week since my last update. I've continued to ignore Nathan's attempts to contact me. My lawyer has filed for divorce and full custody, and we are preparing for what could be a lengthy legal process. My family has been incredibly supportive, helping me navigate this challenging time. I'm focusing on my health and my baby, trying to stay positive and strong. Nathan's latest messages have been a mix of apologies and accusations. He swings between begging for another chance and blaming me for everything. It's exhausting, but I know I need to stay firm in my decision. His inconsistency only reinforces my belief that this is the right path for me and my baby. I've started seeing a therapist to help process everything that's happened. It's been helpful to talk through my feelings and get professional advice on handling the stress and emotional turmoil. My therapist has been a great support, reminding me to focus on my well-being and my baby's future. My mother and sister continue to be my rock. They've been there for me every step of the way, providing emotional support and practical help. I don't know what I would do without them. Their belief in me gives me the strength to keep moving forward. I've also found solace in the online community. The messages of support and encouragement from strangers have meant the world to me. Knowing that others understand and support my decision has been incredibly empowering. As I move forward, I'm focusing on building a new life for myself and my child. I know it won't be easy, but I'm determined to create a safe, loving environment for my baby. This experience has shown me how strong I can be, and I'm ready to face whatever comes next. Thank you to everyone who has reached out with kind words and advice. Your support has been a lifeline during this difficult time. I will continue to keep you updated as things progress. Update 4. It's been a month since I left Nathan, and a lot has happened. The divorce proceedings have started, and I'm working closely with my lawyer for full custody. Nathan's behavior has become erratic, swinging from apologies to threats about custody. I'm keeping records as advised. Emotionally, I'm feeling more stable, thanks to therapy and family support. I'm focusing on self-care and preparing for the baby's arrival, setting boundaries with Nathan for our well-being. Update 3. The divorce is in progress. And it's not easy. Nathan and I haven't spoken since the last phone call, and I know he's preparing for the custody battle with his lawyer. But he can bring it on, I'm not scared. I have my family supporting me, so I don't fear anything right now. I know I'm doing the right thing, and I have a good lawyer. We'll do our best. His mother has been spreading rumors about me among our friends. But I don't care as long as it doesn't affect the divorce. She's a pretty awful person, and this is exactly what I expected from her. From what I've heard, Nathan is back to living with her. Good for them, I guess.